New year, new faces. Hello, Unstoppable fans, and welcome to another season of All Things GW Sports. Sitting next to me today is a familiar face to GW TV and no stranger to the sports desk. A round of applause for my new co-anchor, Richie Wright. Welcome to the big leagues, Richie. How's it feel to be sitting at the desk?
Thank you, Savannah, for the intro. It feels much different finally being here at the big desk after several semesters of Unstoppable, but I'm super excited to sit here with you as we begin another amazing episode.
Well, I'm happy to hear that, Richie, although it may not feel so great when I beat you at Hot Takes later, which will be hosted by our very own Sam Belsky, so stay tuned.
We have a lot in store for you today beyond our hot takes. Our sports rundown is going to cover everything from basketball and gymnastics to golf and softball. We even have Alex Ashley, our men's basketball correspondent, here with us in the studio to break down their season. Plus, we have an exclusive interview with Brian Thomas, the coach of GW's men's and women's swimming and diving teams. There's a lot to unpack here, so let's get right into it.
It's only fitting that we begin our rundown with a team that's celebrated for running. And my dad jokes will also never stop. But besides that, let's talk about women's indoor track and field. The runners are coming off of a historical cross-country season that set new school records and raised the bar high. No GW pun intended. So far, the Colonials have lived up to their typical winning standard with several top 10 finishes and broken school records in their latest meets. Their season opener at the VMI Invitational consisted of 6 top 10 finishes and a new school record of 1 minute and 21 milliseconds set by graduate student Brittany Wilkinson in the 400-meter dash. GW upped their performance the following weekend at the Patriot Games, hosted by revolutionary rival George Mason, where GW had 7 top 10 finishes. Wilkinson and fellow graduate student Catherine Nohilly both set school records in GW's latest impressive performance at Boston University's Valentine Invitational. Wilkinson etched her name in the record book yet again, this time for the 800-meter dash with a time of 2 minutes and 15.43 seconds. Nohilly beat previous record holder Suzanne Danaheim by 3 seconds to set the new record of 4 minutes and 49.58 seconds in the mile race. The runners are dashing to the A10 Indoor Track Championships this weekend, where they hope to see more top 10 finishes and school records. Run fast and raise high, Colonials.
The gymnastics team has stuck the landing in all 8 of their meets this season, scoring 194 or higher and over 196 in 2 of them. They have placed in the top 2 in 5 of their 8 meets, with their lone first-place result coming during the pink meet with a score of 196.025. GW's top-place finish at the pink meet came at the feet of 3 events, scoring 49 or more points. Sophomore Kendall Whitman has been one of the standouts so far, boasting a personal best of 9.9 on the vault during the pink meet and a season-high 9.8 on the beam. Graduate student Ncaa Chambliss has been another phenomenal performer. During the Pittsburgh meet that saw GW earn a season-best score of 196.375, Chambliss led her team on all 4 events with scores of 9.85 or higher. Next up, NC State and Temple will come to the Smith Center for GW's Senior Day. Seeing the scores posted by this team during its first month and a half, there's lots of promise for them moving into the final stretch of their season.
Women's lacrosse welcomed 15 new faces to the team this year, consisting of 13 first-years and 2 transfers. The team lost their season opener against Navy 16-3, and they were edged 12-7 in their second game of the season against Villanova. Despite the slow start, glimpses of hope shine through the buff and blue. Senior goalie Megan Patrick put up a good fight at the net, especially against Navy. She tallied 13 saves, 5 of which came in the final 30 minutes of the game. Freshmen Ashley Geyer and Emily Mowbray picked up momentum for GW as they scored their first collegiate goals in the latest game against Villanova. Sophomore Bailey Aaron tied her career high with 4 goals in a single game against Villanova. Aaron also led the team with 3 draw controls. It's only the beginning of a long lacrosse season, so there will be plenty of opportunities for redemption for GW.
The spring season began at the Invitational at Savannah Harbor earlier this month for the men's golf team. During 2 days of competition, the team placed 14th out of 16 schools with a score that was 37 over par. Freshman Arav Patel placed in the top 25 for all the golfers there by ending up only 5 strokes over par. Patel achieved this with a solid performance that included 8 birdies and 36 pars. Juniors Hugo Rabad and Jacob Harinda also ranked within the top 50 at the Invitational by delivering 9 birdies apiece. GW hopes to place higher at their next event, where they travel to North Carolina for the Ross Collegiate Classic in early March.
The women's softball team had a historic and unbelievable run last season that took them all the way to an A10 title and their first NCAA tournament appearance. The returning A10 champions polled in first place as the A10 preseason favorites, but the team has been downed by challenging Power 5 opponents like UNC and UVA. A 2-6 record is not ideal for new head coach Chrissy Schoonmaker. Schoonmaker was hired last summer after former head coach Shane Winkler left the program for his new head coach position at East Carolina University. Schoonmaker has coaching experience at various universities across the nation, including her alma mater, South Carolina, Texas Tech, Houston, UConn, and most recently, Harvard. There's a lot of potential in this team, which boasts 16 returning players from last year's championship season. Players like Sierra Lange and Alessandra Pons bring a lot to the table, specifically at home plate. The two athletes are outstanding batters, with Lange scoring 3 runs and Pons getting hits in all 4 games at the Spiro Classic last weekend. Despite the tough competition they have so far, the Colonials remain a competitive A10 team. These next 2 weekends will be good practice for GW as they head to Lynchburg, Virginia to play several high-ranking teams, including Liberty, Notre Dame, and James Madison. A10 play begins March 12th when GW heads to Philadelphia to face St. Joseph's University.
In their season-opening series against UTRGV, GW was outscored 33-4 across the 3 games. Although a rough way to begin the spring, GW's offense showed promise in the second and third games where they produced 9 and 10 hits respectively. Errors on defense mark the biggest concern for this team right now. They committed 8 across the first 3 games, and UTRGV has been opportunistic on all times they've occurred. Grad student Michael Ludwig performed well, leading the team with 3 hits and 1 run during the second game of the series. Junior Logan Leox and sophomore Eddie Micheletti Jr. also got 2 base knocks apiece in the final showdown between these schools. On the pitcher's mound, redshirt senior Harrison Cohen struck out 11 of the first 12 batters in 1 game, which wound up being the best stretch of pitching by GW during this opening series. The players will look to bounce back from this as they travel to South Carolina next for another 3-game series. From there, GW will return to DC for a stretch of home games against Towson and Maine.
They did it again. For the 5th time in 6 years, the men's swimming and diving team brought home the A10 Championship trophy. And my oh my is it going to shine in the Smith Center trophy case. GW boasted a total of 879.5 points, scoring way ahead of runner-up George Mason, who was more than 350 points behind. GW also earned 28 medals, half of which were gold medals. The winning effort was collective, with all 18 scorers accumulating double-digit points towards GW's total score. Players in the spotlight included Mariko Shina, who was named A10 Championship Most Outstanding Performer, and Connor Rogers, named Most Outstanding Rookie Performer. Oshina won 7 gold medals, and he set an A10 record with his 200-meter individually medley winning time of 1 minute and 44.72 seconds. Rogers had a dominant performance in his freshman debut, boasting 2 gold medals in the 500-yard freestyle and 800-yard freestyle respectively, and 1 bronze medal in the 200-meter butterfly. The Serbian swimmer Georgia Matic also set an A10 record in the 200 fly, with a time of 1 minute and 45.17 seconds, and the 50 free with a time of 19.56 seconds. Matic has had his hands full with 7 gold medals of his own from the A10 meet. The Colonials were welcomed back by a cheering crowd of fellow student athletes outside the Smith Center, sharing that winning spirit with the rest of GW.
The women's swim and dive teams wrapped up an astounding performance last week at the A10 Championships that saw them blow the competition out of the water with a total of 701.5 points, nearly 200 points more than the second-place school. During an impressive 4 days of competition, GW broke several program records due to their extremely talented roster. Senior Aaron McCarthy earned GW's only 2 gold medals of the championships in the 500 free and 1650 free. Molly Rickard, Ava DeAngelis, Barbara Shaw, and Julia Knox competed together in the 400-yard medley relay, where they posted a time of 3 minutes and 40.52 seconds. This shattered the program record and led them to a silver medal. Knox, a freshman, also set a new individual program record for the 400-yard medley. During the final day of competition, Jamie Doak, Dara Ryblatt, and Caitlin and all combined to post 73 points in diving, further adding to GW's lead. All members of this squad deserve plenty of praise, reflected in their participation in all but one of the championship finals during this competition. This victory marks the team's second A10 championship in the last 3 years, a testament to their consistency and raw talent. Savannah got the opportunity to sit down with Coach Brian Thomas to talk about their season.
The success with the GW swimming and diving teams does not stop with the players. Coach Brian Thomas has been critical to the stellar results posted by both programs. He joined GW in 2018 and during his time has led both teams to multiple A10 championships. This year, Coach Thomas was named the A10 Coach of the Year, further highlighting his contributions to the school program. Now we have a chance to sit down for an exclusive interview with Coach Thomas to discuss this season's A10 championship victories for both teams. Coach Thomas, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing this morning?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So how does it feel to be an A10 champion again?
Familiar, I guess. It feels great. This is the first year we've done it with both programs, winning at the same time. So that is different. When one has success and the other maybe comes up short, it's certainly bittersweet. So that was a lot of fun. I think it's something that, you never want to get too used to it. You want to be driven by it. So we kind of keep it in its proper place, but certainly better than losing.
Absolutely. What were the emotions like after both programs won last week?
Yeah, it's funny. My athletics director, Tanya Vogel, was on the pool deck with us, and I said to her, I don't know whether to be excited or just tired, because these meets are marathons. I mean, they're 4 days. They're 3-hour session in the morning, 3-hour session in the evening, so they really kind of drain you. And then you throw the emotion into it, and some of the highs and lows that go with a long meet like that. But obviously we're pretty elated to have the success that we did, and I do think we kind of exceeded maybe some expectations that we had, especially with our women's program, so we're excited by that.
What do you tell your athletes to keep them going through that long 4-day period to help them stay motivated?
Yeah, I think it's a matter of just kind of staying within the ebbs and the flows of the meet itself, motivation, I think at that point is kind of easy to come by. It's a culmination of our season. It's 6 months of hard work and really a lifetime for a lot of the athletes. So it's not terribly difficult to get them motivated, especially once we start having some success. It tends to be contagious. So we tend to really kind of get tunnel visioned, I think, when we're in a meet like that, and you're moving one session to the next and really just trying to take it one step at a time.
Yeah. So you said that this is the first time the men's and women's team have both won the A10 in program history. What led both teams to this achievement?
I mean, honestly, probably good recruiting. Our men's program was already at the top of the conference. We really knew, I think, going into it that it wouldn't be a problem for them. The women, we had to rebuild, and we basically spent, the majority of COVID doing that. When we were locked down from March of 2020 through August of 2020, our staff put in a lot of hard work to do that and rebuild the program, and it was definitely reflective in our results with great performances out of first years, and I think that part of things, it probably isn't mentioned enough. It's just good recruiting, bringing in great people that want to buy in.
Yeah. So regarding recruiting, you have a lot of international athletes on your team from Poland, Norway, New Zealand. Yeah. How do you help these students and athletes find their community on campus and abroad?
It's really pretty easy here. I think one of the attractions for international students is DC and having a lot to offer. And I think actually for a lot of our international students, it reminds them a bit of home, where you can walk to the grocery stores. It's kind of a city atmosphere, but kind of a neighborhood at the same time. And I think there's a comfort zone there. They come in with, we have 28 women, 28 guys, so they have kind of a social support system in place when they get here, and they really just kind of sink into that, I think, and that's unique and actually just kind of fun to see.
What do the swimmers do outside of practice to form the bonds that they have?
They do everything together. I think during our season, they'll at least tell you they don't have a lot of time to do anything, but it's really like sun up to sundown, they're together. They live together, eat together, go to class, go to practice, and that sort of thing. One thing I think we're looking forward to in the springtime is maybe having a little bit more time for them to like explore the city and get into everything that it means to be a student at GW. The last couple springs, we really haven't had that opportunity. So even our juniors haven't really experienced what it's like to be a college student. So they really just do absolutely everything together. They're a pretty tight-knit group.
After the meet, you said that the culture on the team is more important to your athletes than anything else. Can you describe that culture?
Yeah, I think we hammer it pretty hard starting in the recruiting process just to make sure we're surrounding our team with the right people, and we really look for athletes to whom their swimming and their diving is really important to them, and to people that are looking for an experience that goes beyond themselves and maybe want to be surrounded by people that are going to elevate their experience. I think the way I describe it best is that we have a really positive, really inclusive culture within our team where people can come in and feel like comfortable being themselves. And that's a ton of fun to see. It makes coaching easier. It makes me want to be more comfortable with myself. And it's pretty contagious. And it's just important to them that they maintain that and build upon it. And to me, that is a little bit more important to than what they can do in the water.
I think it's also safe to say that you've established a winning culture here at GW. What is your coaching strategy to maintain that?
Yeah, I think it's making sure that we are paying pretty close attention to the level of talent that we have on the team, and as graduation happens, we're replenishing that essentially, and it's really that simple. The recruiting realm has become something that's really like 365, 24/7. So staying on top of that at all times is probably the most important thing. And we feel if we're with swimming, it's simple. We have times to judge on and things like that. So if we're replenishing what we're losing and maybe replenishing at a higher level in terms of point scoring, then we're going to end up pretty good.
Coach, when you compare GW to an SEC school, the majority of the student body here at GW seems to be a little indifferent to what goes on at the Smith Center.
Sure.
How do you navigate through this mundane sports culture?
I don't. I think I'm pretty tunnel visioned with what we do. And with swimming and diving, regardless of what campus you're on, you're probably not going to be the top dog anyway. So we're okay with that. We're cool with that. And I think our swimming and diving is important enough to us that we just don't really need that necessarily. Certainly I see the athletics department pretty in depth. I have a pretty good view of it. And I even told Tanya last week, what she's built here is really unique. So would love for, the student body to get into that a little bit more. What Jamien's doing, what Carolyn's doing, the teams that are going to get us attention, they're doing great things. And in sports like that, it's hyper competitive. So it may take a couple years, but they are doing the right things. And I've been doing this for 17 years. I've seen a lot of different programs at a lot of different schools, and I think what we have in place here is pretty unique, and the things we have to sell here are pretty unique, and I do hope that that means maybe a bit stronger connection with the student body at some point.
Coach, who would you say are the most impactful leaders on both the men's and women's teams?
Oh, we have a bunch. I would say that on the women's side, the reason we were able to have so much success is because we kind of blended really good experience at the top with our seniors and fifth years with some pretty talented first years. I think of Grace Olivardi. I think about Issa Berdesio. Andy Ho, who stayed for a fifth year this year, was amazing in the leadership that they all brought. On the men's side, Tyler Kawakami is a rising senior for us next year. Dylan Arzoni, who's graduating, really have slipped into those roles pretty naturally, I think, and have taken command. And one thing we tend to preach a little bit is making sure those leadership positions are open for anybody. Whether you're a first year or a senior, there's going to be little areas for you to step in and lead at all times with the amount of time we spend together. So we try to emphasize that.
Absolutely. And you were the head coach of the women's swimming and diving program for 2 years at St. Bonaventure prior to GW. What made you switch to GW?
I think it was a number of things. With this opportunity, it got to the point where it basically checked all the boxes. The only difficult thing was leaving the athletes up there, probably. It does seem like a long time ago now to a certain degree, but It was definitely a family decision. My wife is a fundraiser. She can kind of maximize her career in Washington, D.C. versus only in New York, where there isn't a whole lot going on. We have a young family. I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, so getting them to an area that we think the education's really good here and things of that nature. It's also close to family. That was the number one priority for me, is making sure our family's in the best possible spot, I guess. But beyond that, being able to coach a combined program, it's leading 50 athletes plus 10 or so support staff versus 25 athletes, so it's a whole different realm that way. And maybe the thing I was most proudest of with our women having so much success is that the teams we beat are women's only programs. So we're like managing a whole other team while trying to build what we have on the women's side. So in any event, it was really everything. There really wasn't a box that it didn't check. And being honest, I wasn't really looking to make a change at the time. But this represented a lot of things I was looking for.
50 plus athletes, how do you balance coaching all of them?
It's not easy. I think the number one thing is trying to be pretty organized with our time and making sure that every athlete is accounted for, I guess. From a training standpoint, we do a lot of individual meetings. Like, it takes me a good 3 weeks to get through a swath of individual meetings with our team just to find the right time. We're also on the pool deck like 6 to 8 hours a day with the different workouts we have going, so it's tough to find the time. Something an older coach told me very early on was he used to write on the top of his workout, talk to every kid every day. And it sounds simple, but like when you have 50, it isn't. And when you have like 4 or 5 different groups coming and going, it isn't. But just trying to connect. It's the most enjoyable part of what we do, so it is kind of easy. But at the same time, it can get hectic, and you look up and say, okay, I need to like reinvest some of my time here into what I'm doing. When you think about balancing all the administrative side, the recruiting side, all that sort of stuff, our athletes are priority number one, and we need to keep it that way.
In your 17-year coaching career, what is your favorite coaching memory?
Oh, geez. That's a great question. I've thought a lot about this. We did have a woman make the U.S. Olympic team in 2012 in the 100 butterfly, and that was obviously exciting just because of the level of competition, and everyone dreams of that. I will tell you that I think it depends on how much you invest in something. It doesn't necessarily depend on whether we're winning gold medals or we're winning Atlantic 10 championships or we're simply making a championship final in a particular event. If it meant a lot of investment to the athlete and to the coach, then it means a lot. I will say, there are certain things that I think we did last week that will certainly go down at least toward the top of some of the best coaching memories that I've had in having success. It's more wrapped around team success than individual success, probably. I wish I had a better answer for you, but I've started to do a lot of things, and all of a sudden I look up and it's like, you've been doing this like 15, 16, 17 years. There's a lot of memories, and I tend not to rank them too much. I really look forward to the next one. That's probably it, is trying to be forward facing with what we're doing. And eventually, when I step away from this thing, I'll look back and maybe pinpoint some areas. But we're hitting the road today. We have a last chance opportunity to make the NCAA meet down in Georgia. So I'm looking forward to that.
And how has the team prepared for this NCAA meet? Were they too distracted by the win, or were they immediately focused?
Yeah, I don't think they were distracted. I think the most difficult thing to overcome is just getting caught up with schoolwork, trying to stay healthy, trying to catch up on sleep and that sort of thing while preparing for another meet less than a week later. But they do a pretty good job of that. Most of them are used to that to a certain degree, so we'll see.
Coach, and I know the season isn't over yet, but both teams have obviously exceeded expectations. How high is the bar set for next year?
I think it's pretty high. Again, the goal is to think about what's next and make sure we're not taking side steps or stepping backward. And I do think, specifically our women's program took a giant leap forward this year. As we look at other conferences, and our 800 freestyle relay would have been second in the Big 12. And we look at different metrics that way. We've certainly gotten better. So now it's about national success, probably, and continuing to try to place swimmers on teams internationally. You mentioned the number of international athletes we have. That means opportunities to swim at the World Championships and the World University Games and things of that nature. So I think that's a big part of the next step. We always have our eye on the top 25, and that's kind of like something that's driven us, as we've gone through my 4 years here, and I think we're going to kind of like continue that pursuit.
Absolutely. Coach, is there anything else you would like to add?
I don't think so. Thanks for having me. We're really excited to represent the university, and we always kind of think about that when we're on the road, that we're taking the whole student body with us. So we appreciate the support that we do get, and hope to continue the success we've had.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us, and best of luck today.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
It's been an up and down season for the women's tennis team so far, where they currently hold a 2-3 record in this non-conference stretch of play. Their shaky season is best captured through their 0-7 defeat to Maryland in early February, followed by a 7-0 sweep of Delaware State less than 2 weeks later. With just 8 women on the team, they are forced to turn toward player experience over roster depth. Sophomore Stella Wiseman has claimed 3 wins in her first 5 singles matches, all of which were straight sets. This comes after an impressive season last spring where Wiseman won 9 of 15 singles matches as the #1 seed. Tied with Wiseman for a team-best 3 singles wins is senior Katarina Marinkovic. Named GW Female Rookie of the Year her freshman year, she has consistently improved her game each season. It goes without question that her racket skills will be a key factor in the success of this squad. Coming off the heels of Delaware State shutout, GW takes to the road for back-to-back matches against West Virginia University and Toledo before coming home to host Howard in early March.
The men's basketball team picked up some mid-season momentum, going 9-7 in the last 16 games, but it still wasn't enough to finish the regular season with a winning record. The Colonials currently stand at 11-15 and 7-7 in A10 play. James Bishop and Joe Bamazile lead the team in points with 440 and 404 respectively. Bamazile is also pacing the team with 40 offensive rebounds, and Ricky Lindo Jr. is right behind him with 38. Defensively, Lindo Jr. is leading the team with 41 blocks and 136 defensive rebounds. Bamazile and Brayon Freeman are tied at the top of the leadership board with 35 steals each. With 3 more conference games ahead, this is their last chance to prove themselves before the big stage. The A10 tournament is set to take place in our very own city at Capital One Arena from March 9th to March 13th. Joining us at the desk is Alex Ashley, here to give us his analysis on men's basketball's performance lately, as well as his predictions for the A10 tournament. Alex, it's great to have you here. I believe this is your first VAMP?
It is. It's great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, well, welcome to the studio. So, Alex, can you tell us a little bit about what GW's performance has been like lately?
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned before, we had that great win against URI. We had a win against Duquesne before that, and that game against URI, strong showing with a score of 72-61. Joe Bamazile had 20 points and 4 rebounds, and the defense was really key. We forced 17 turnovers and 17 points off of those turnovers. The next game against Richmond, despite 29 points from Joe Bamazile, we did fall 84-71. But the team did have some bright spots with only 4 turnovers during the entire game. So definitely some things are looking up.
Yeah, Joe Bamazile could not carry the team on his back, but he did put in a great amount of effort. Can you tell us more about the losing streak that they had in the beginning, the rough start to the midseason turnaround?
Yeah, I mean, GW started off this season at 2-7, but since then they've gone 9-7, including 7-7 in conference. Joe Bamazile has really been a leader on this team, and in the past 3 games he's averaging just under 24 points per game. James Bishop has also averaged 17 points on the season, but the biggest turnaround has definitely been the defense. This season, the GW men's team has the 2nd lowest 3-point allowance percentage in the entire A10, plus the 4th most blocks and the 5th most steals. That turnaround has really helped them find their stride in the second half of the season.
Yeah, and you know, they're currently standing at 11-15 overall, but 7-7 in the A10. And if you guys look at the schedule, the next 3 opponents are all ranked beneath them. Now, I'm not saying rankings mean everything, but they have a good shot of ending 10-7 in the A10.
Yeah, for sure. And this season at the beginning, GW is predicted to be 13th in the A10. So being at that current 7th position with that 7-7 record is definitely above expectations.
Absolutely. Who are some key players you guys have been looking out for, Richie?
Yeah, do you have any key players in mind that kind of are more critical to the success? I know you said especially on defense, going back to that's kind of been a huge turnaround for this team. Do you think that there's certain players that stand out more on defense rather than offense? What insight do you have on that?
I think for sure Ricky Lindo is one to watch out for. He is a pretty good scorer, but he actually does his best work on the boards. Getting those rebounds, especially in combination with Hunter Dean, is really important for the team. And when the team is performing well on the rebounds, the shooting percentage actually does better. I think it's also important for the team to get in stride in terms of the offense from behind the arc. In the games that GW has won, they have shot over 35% from three, and in certain games they've lost, they've shot under 25%. Just kind of getting into that zone and getting everything working on offense and going smoothly is going to be really important, as GW doesn't have the highest points per game in the A10.
Ricky and Hunter definitely have that size advantage that allows them to be those defensive powerhouses.
They really do, although Hunter Dean sometimes gets into foul trouble, so that is one thing that he has to make sure he watches out for.
How do you think that they'll fare in the A10 next week?
Depending on how the rest 3 games go, the current opponents are predicted to be Rhode Island or UMass, both teams that GW are 3-0 against combined in this season. URI, the defense is really going to be key if that's our matchup. In the last game, GW held URI to 45% shooting in the matchup and only 23% from 3. That's a really important factor because URI has one of the highest scoring offenses in the A10.
What do they need to do in particular to succeed in the tournament? You said Hunter D needs to watch out for foul trouble. What else is going on?
I think the offense just needs to click. There are certain games where the second half is where the GW team really kind of gets into its stride, but the first half can be a bit shaky. And then just finishing through. There was that game against Davidson a couple weeks ago where they had a great lead and it kind of just fell apart in that fourth quarter. I think it's going to be really important to maintain the momentum, especially coming out of halftime, and just focus on the goals of the game and follow through.
So how do you think confidence is looking for this team going into the A10? And more importantly, are there any matchups maybe that you're a little more nervous about if you're GW going into the tournament?
I think for sure the top 4 in the A10, VCU, Dayton, Davidson, and St. Bonaventure. All 4 of those teams are perennially tournament teams, and there's just a higher level of competition there. In March, anything is possible, and I'd love for the team to make a run, but those ones are going to be the games to watch out for if GW advances far enough in the tournament.
All right, Alex, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your insight.
Thank you.
As the end of the season approaches, the women's basketball team sits at 11-16, where 8 of those wins have come at home. The squad's record is not much better in A10 conference play at 4-10. However, a late-season surge has seen GW win 4 of its last 6 games, including a thrilling come-from-behind victory against St. Bonaventure, which saw them outscore their opponents 23-3 in the fourth quarter. Junior Mayowa Taiwo proved a pivotal force in these recent wins. Against Duquesne, she scored 15 points and had 7 rebounds. Taiwo then had a monster game when she beat GW when she beat George Mason 65-57, where she had 18 points and 17 rebounds that gave her a double-double. Junior Shizlani Loreno has provided additional offensive power by averaging over 13 points per game in the last 5. Among the freshmen on the team, Maxine Engel has shown tremendous talent as she helped lead the St. Bonaventure comeback with 16 points of her own. GW ends its season at home against LaSalle. While the conference and overall records were not quite as strong as hoped for Coach Caroline McCombs, the last few weeks offered some exciting wins and standout performances from numerous players.
You know what time it is, Buff and Blue fans. Here are Unstoppable's top 3 plays. In third place, we've got Joe Bamazil's between the legs snatch that ended in a 3 for GW and a spider on his back. Bamazil ended the game with a career-high 29 points. Despite this explosive performance from the sophomore guard, it was still not enough for GW to beat Richmond.
Coming in at second place is Dea Chambliss, being named East Atlantic Gymnastics League Gymnast of the Week. This is her 3rd time this season receiving this honor, and it comes off her impressive results at Pittsburgh. At the meet, Chambliss compiled a score of 39.6 out of a possible 40 in the all-around, tying her for 2nd all-time in program history.
Here to take the throne, drum roll please, the men's and women's swimming and diving teams. For the first time in program history, both the men's and women's swimming and diving teams won an A10 title. Over 4 days of A10 championship competition, the group combined for 65 all-time top 10 swims, 45 total medals, 16 of which were gold, 22 all-conference honorees, 11 program records, and 5 meet records. A raise high-worthy performance indeed.
Hello, Unstoppable fans. It's time for Hot Takes. I'm your host, Sam Belsky, and I'm going to be asking a series of questions to our 2 anchors that will hopefully lead to a heated debate for your entertainment. First up, I'm sure we had a great time watching the Super Bowl yet again, and we had a great time watching its halftime performance as well. So with many notable halftime performances, especially the past few years, what would your favorite Super Bowl halftime be? Savannah, let's start with you.
I think my all-time favorite would be J-Lo and Shakira a couple of years back. It was such a high energy performance. One thing that I love that really stood out to me was the costumes. I know that has nothing to do with music, but Shakira was decked out in Swarovski crystal. Her red dress had 123,000 Swarovski crystals, and her boots had 30,000. Like, it was insane, sparkling all the way. And J-Lo had a custom designed Donatella Versace outfit, so I also love that. But then in terms of the music, they had such a great variety of songs, from childhood throwbacks like Wherever Whenever, Jenny from the Block, Waka Waka, to contemporary artists like J Balvin and Bad Bunny. I thought that was pure genius, like combining the throwbacks with people that we love to listen to now. And according to Per Ticket Source, it is the most popular halftime show in history, which I never even really thought of, because there's been really good ones like The Weeknd, and this year's was really good. But I just really love this one, especially like the cultural aspect of it. When J-Lo came out with the Puerto Rican flag and the American flag, I am a huge proponent of like showing off your culture. And her daughter came out to sing with her too, which was like such a wholesome aspect to it. So all around, love the music, the dancing, the fashion, the feel of it. It was great. Hands down, best performance of all time.
Can't go wrong
Beat
there.
that.
Richie, what you got?
I have to say I agree with the whole fact of the Shakira J-Lo one being high energy. I did love that about that one. I think other good ones, especially this year's, was really good. Being the first one where hip-hop took center stage was really prominent as well. You said going for the like cultural impact as well for that. Other ones kind of bouncing around were Lady Gaga, or even the one with Beyonce way back, I think 2013 it was. But for me, I think I'm going to have to go with the Super Bowl 50 halftime show, which was Coldplay, Beyonce, and Bruno Mars. I thought it had a good mix of everything there, opening with Coldplay and then kind of seeing how the internet reacted to, oh, Coldplay was the headliner, but then was overshadowed by his, like, the side acts, if you will, the side performers. Bruno coming in was really good on the drum set, I think, and then Beyonce on the field leading them all to be together in the end of it. I just thought that one had a little bit of everything going on for everyone, and good energy, good music. I think all around for me, that might be my favorite one.
Definitely can't beat either of those options. I think I'm going to have to give this one to Savannah, though. You can't go wrong with Shakira, and the outfits and everything that went into that one was absolutely nuts. I think, personally, I'm partial to the Katy Perry one. I loved the sharks dancing. That was just the most entertaining thing in the world for me. But yeah, so Savannah, you're going to take that one. And for our next question, we're going to turn to college basketball. Recently, Michigan head coach Juwan Howard was suspended for the remainder of the season after a skirmish with Wisconsin's coaching staff this past week or two. What do you think that Michigan should take as their course of action in dealing with Juwan Howard going forward? Do you think this will be a problem going forward? Richie, let's start with you.
So there's a lot to unpack here. I think first off, it's just really unexpected to kind of see like coaching staffs go at it like this at the end of a game. But basically, it was Coach Howard was basically just went up to the coaches at the end and then started exchanging some words. We don't really know yet exactly all of what was said, and I think that's critical for deciding how they handle it long term. But it's really disheartening to see this kind of stuff happen, I think, because players especially, but also the coaches have to be role models for their team and the school as well. I understand that Coach Howard's angry because there was the whole issue at the end with Wisconsin's coach using timeouts when there really wasn't a need to because they were up by so much, and it was like dragging it out, this and that. And it was frustrating, I'm sure. And it's understandable he's very upset, especially end of a game. They're big rivals. But the fact that he decided to physically harm one of the members of the coaching staff in Wisconsin by reaching out across when other members were like holding him back to slap the other coach across the face, and then whatever else he was saying verbally, I think that there has to be some kind of consequence for that. Exactly what that is, I don't know. Michigan's already decided to take some action. I know that Howard's got a 5-game suspension going for him, as well as a $40,000 fine. He's not the only one being fined, though. The other head coach for Wisconsin has a $10,000 fine. They're the only two so far that any kind of action's been taken against. And I think, again, there's calls for suspending him for the rest of the season, Coach Howard, as well as even some people are saying, oh, we should fire him. I think it's a little premature to go that far with it. I think so let's see how the 5-game suspension goes, especially the fact that Coach Howard's already released statements since the incident saying he's reflected, he's apologized for his words and actions. He recognizes all about what he did was not in the name, like a good way to present himself or the sport, and he should be representing Michigan and his team with pride and class. And he thinks that he's learned from these mistakes and will be able to make sure it doesn't happen again. So I think we have to also make sure we're not strictly just being punitive about it. I think Michigan should hopefully be understanding of that, and there needs to be a little bit more like reflection and forgiveness, and I think Howard's in the right path for that right now. I just think it'll be interesting to see how the team handles this going into March, especially when tournament play picks up.
Very well said, Richie. First off, I want to start by saying that no coach should ever react that way, because then you have players stepping in to defend him. 3 players on Michigan's team are suspended now because they stepped in to defend their coach. And as a coach, you should know better than to incite violence at a game. And when you think about that, it hurts the players because NBA scouts are watching and they're seeing these guys fight. And, yeah, you were defending your coach, but you shouldn't react like that in a college game. That's really important. You have scouts watching you. You want to go to the league, but you're fighting. It's never a good look. And then also in terms of Greg Gard calling that timeout in the last 15 seconds, I personally understand why he did that. I understand that they were up 15 points, but you always got to play till the end. And, if he's playing till the end, what would he be telling or showing his athletes if he was like, all right, guys, 10 seconds left, let's just quit now. You play till the end, fight till the end, and that's just something that you then practice in other games where it's important that you have to fight to the end. But then on the other hand, also, we weren't there. We only saw the footage. We don't know what was said. Allegedly, Howard said that Greg Gard touched him, which we didn't see, but we never know what exchange was really made. And considering Greg Gard was also fined $10,000, goes to show he wasn't completely in the right here. He's not just like the innocent guy. So I think that Juwan Howard paid the price, the $40,000, like Richie said. He's got the 5-game suspension. He reflected. He publicly made a statement about it. He knows what he did was wrong, and I don't think he should be punished any further, because another thing that people don't really understand in these situations is the heat of the moment and the emotion that comes into a game like this. Even though it's a regular season game, think of March Madness or a tournament final. There's so much emotion that goes into being an athlete and playing on that court that non-athletes probably just wouldn't understand. And sometimes it's hard to control those emotions, and that's why now you have a lot of people saying end the post-game handshake line. Patrick Ewing is really advocating for this. He's like, back in my day, we never shook hands. We just waved goodbye and went our separate ways. And, I think that it's a great sign of respect to shake hands after the game, but I'm thinking now maybe let's just stick to pre-game handshake line. You know how in football they do the coin toss and they shake hands, do that in basketball too, because after the game, this tensions are so high, emotions are really elevated, and it's hard to control those, and then you have situations like this where things escalate. So maybe looking forward in the future, we should get rid of that.
You guys gave some great points, both of you, and you had some similar answers, although I think I'm going to give this one to Richie because personally I'm a fan of the handshake line. I think it's a great thing for sportsmanship. So Richie's going to take this one, and we're moving on with a score of 1-1 right now. So to move into the more seasonal bit of the episode, as spring break is going to start up soon and many of us start to think about a paradise away from DC's sort of weird weather, what would your ideal spring break destination be and why? Savannah, let's go with you.
My ideal spring break destination would be Tulum. And this one's personal because I actually wanted to go there, but my friends and I did not book our flight in time, and now they're sold out. So we're not going. We're going to LA instead, but that's okay. The reason why I love Tulum, I've never been there, but I've seen so many pictures and videos of it. It's such a beautiful place with a diverse biosphere. You've got beautiful beaches with turquoise water and the cenotes and the caves and jungle-themed restaurants. It's gorgeous. It's absolutely breathtaking. And then, of course, going back to the fashion aspect, I know it's a sports show, but I love fashion. So all the boho chic, all white outfits, I really love that. It's a different vibe. It's definitely not something you'll see in DC. It's It's a totally different area where you could really get away, be in this like super nature-oriented environment, breathe in the fresh air, enjoy the different animals and the jungles and the beaches, and I would love to go there one day. Maybe I'll plan ahead for next spring break.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good pick. I think anywhere right on the Gulf Coast is beautiful. Like you, not for the same reasons, but also going to LA this spring break. But if I'm having to pick an ideal location, I think I'm gonna have to go somewhere on the Mediterranean coast, maybe something Greek or Italian. I think it's very picturesque, very, very beautiful, especially this time of year. It's warming up just like it's warming up here in DC a little bit. Never been to Europe, so that's also another factor at play for me here. I think if I'm gonna go somewhere in Europe, it would be great to start off on the Mediterranean coastline somewhere. And I've had some friends and family that have been to places in Italy and Greece, and they say it's beautiful. So I just think, honestly, just like you said, it's very pretty down in Tulum. I think it's just as pretty, if not even better, from my personal opinion. Just looking at photographs and personal accounts, I think anywhere over there would be just as great.
I do love Europe. That's a good one. And we'll have to get lunch in LA.
Yes.
Can't go wrong with either of those choices. Savannah, I think I'm going to go with you on this one because making the vacation destination a personal thing, that's a real key. That's what makes it the ideal spot and not just a great spot, you know? So with that, that's going to wrap up Hot Takes for today. Savannah's going to take this one 2-1.
Woo! Finally.
We'll catch you next time.
Well, that's all from us today from your GW Sports News. Make sure to check out our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter with the handles below so you can stay up to date on all our exclusive GW content.
Thanks so much for tuning in today. And as always,
Raise
raise high.